the slide. Oops, I think I'm sharing the wrong window. Sorry.
It looked good to me, Paul. I don't know if you were sharing the wrong.
Right. Okay. Mina, do you want to go ahead and get started?
You're not sharing anymore, though.
Oh, it's not sharing anymore?
Mm-mm.
Sorry. Let me get back in.
Okay. Yeah, I can go ahead and get started.
All right.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us this Monday morning. We are going to be presenting on the work the Task Force on Undergraduate Data Science Competencies have done so far, and really hoping to get feedback from the group as well, and also invite you all to provide feedback after the town hall as well. I'm Mina Chetinkaya-Rundell. I'm at Duke University, and I'm one of the ASA representatives on the task force. Joining me is Jun Yan from University of Connecticut, who is also one of the other ASA representatives, as well as Maureen Doyle from Northern Kentucky University, and Paul Leidig from Grand Valley State University, who are our ACM representatives. And it says they're retired, so they're living their good life, but taking the time out to continue their work on the task force, so we appreciate it. So the goal today is to introduce you to the charter and the members, talk a little bit about the prior work, and then introduce you to the competency framework that we are following for structuring the curriculum guidelines that we're working on. Then we will introduce you to a few of the knowledge areas, and we should have plenty of time for open discussion and feedback, and talk a little bit about the work groups as well. So the origin of this work is ACM's Computing Competencies for Undergraduate Data Science Curricula, with work that began in 2017 and published in 2021. Whether you are an ACM member or an ASA member, you're probably familiar with this work. And the broad goal of the competing competencies was to add the broad interdisciplinary conversation on data science with an articulation of the role of computing discipline-specific contributions to this emerging field, and provide guidance on computing-specific competencies in data science. You can access them at that QR code if you're interested in reviewing sort of the prior work. But our charter for this task force is sort of starting there, but then to extend the ACM document by producing a multidisciplinary set of competencies for data science. And we have representatives from computing, statistics, and applied mathematics societies on the task force. Here is the makeup of the task force. I won't read everybody's name, but you will be able to see that lots of societies are represented here. The gray folks have contributed greatly along the way since the task force started its work, but are no longer serving on the task force due to a variety of sort of like change priorities, that sort of reasons. And in a couple of instances, we are looking to see if we might be able to get another representative from that society to join in their place as well.
Mina, if I can just interject there, I
Yeah.
apologize. I see that Michael Posner is on the group, and just this morning, Michael has agreed to join the group, so he'll be a new ASA representative, and he's been familiar with our work. I know he contributed unofficially through my co-chair back in the computing work. So, Michael, I was going to put it in chat, but since she mentioned the changeover, welcome to the group. Sorry, Mina, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank
Thanks
you.
for having me on board.
All right, we can move to the next slide. So in terms of prior work that we have reviewed and inspired by, we looked at the motivational attitudes and statistics and data science education research, the master framework. There are reps here on the call, including Michael, who have worked on that. As I mentioned, we looked at the ACM document. There's also the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine report on data science from 2018, the Edison Project's data science framework from 2017, the Park City report from 2017, the Business Higher Education Framework, Data Science and Analytics Competency Map from 2016. There was an Informs Business Analytics Curriculum from 2015, a Business Analytics Curriculum for Undergraduate Majors from 2015, and finally the National Science Foundation's workshop from 2015 that produced the Strengthening Data Science Education Through a Collaboration report. If you have done work over the last decade on building data science courses, curricula, frameworks, you're probably familiar with all of these. And this is not meant to be a comprehensive list of all data science frameworks that have ever been published, but more ones that we've been inspired by and have tried to make sure that we are not inadvertently omitting anything from, also not necessarily trying to include every single thing that have been called out in these documents, since then we would be producing an even more impossible to implement document but the goal is to where there is something in one of these documents that have been called out, if we're not including in the framework we're working on, that was an intentional choice, basically. We started the work in 2023. The work actually really started with the participating associations agreeing on a charge and then nominating participants. And we started in April 2024 with biweekly virtual meetings with the group that I introduced earlier. In October 2024, we had our first in-person meeting, and coupled with a presentation at the SIAM meeting. It was really a productive day and also wonderful to sort of have these in-person interactions with folks who might be on the receiving end of the framework that we're building. And sort of fueled by that and how productive that was throughout 2025, we've had a various presentations. I was involved with the one at JSM, for example, so I'll call that out for this group, but also at various other conferences as well. And, these presentations always having plenty of time for a feedback session so that we could bring them back to the task force. So, we have finished our phase one, and our goal is to wrap up the project by the end of 2026 and be able to deliver a final report. And we want to make sure that we have ample feedback from the community in the interim. So this town hall is really one of those opportunities. So I'll pass this on to Paul, I think, right?
That's right. Thank you, Mina. And we do have a good bit of work to hit that goal of a report by the end of this year. But with the participation we've had, I know that when Donna sent out the notification about this meeting and inviting comments, our public comment document, which we'll give you a link to if you don't have it, immediately popped up with comments and feedback from the ASA folks. And so thank you very much. Let me transition into a description of the approach we're taking. And that is we're trying to develop a competency-based document that describes the bigger picture of competency. I know in the past, many of us have loved to have a bachelor's or undergraduate level model curriculum that says, here is what you should teach, and here are the courses and how many credit hours and et cetera. Especially in a field like data science with not only a very multidisciplinary nature, but the fact that we have different administrative homes, and some programs are in a statistics or math department, some in computing or engineering and business. There's a lot of flavors of data science out there, and therefore it really does help pick up on the true nugget of the value when we look at a competency and we want to put it in the frame of a task. As you all know, data science is really valuable or only valuable when it's applied to a given domain and what it is that it's being used for. And therefore, instead of getting into the different domains where it might be applied, we describe that when it's applied to a task, that an individual has their own set of dispositions, and we'll get to a brief comment. We're going to concentrate more on the knowledge aspect today, but they'll have their dispositions, which then within that, they develop the knowledge and the skills necessary to apply to that task. The competency the way we describe it then is the intersection or the combination of those skills, knowledge, and dispositions that an individual has. And so we are really trying to focus in on the description starting at the competency level. So what does that look like if we separate that competency into the mastery of content and learning, transfer of learning into a knowledge unit? The skills, which shows the interactions and ability that someone has to apply the knowledge they have as a skill. And then disposition, which a lot of times are used with as attributes or different names that are given to what we're calling professional dispositions, those personal qualities, the social behaviors and attitudes that help apply that. The framework that we are then using to describe these competencies is broken down by knowledge areas. And in a minute, June's going to go through and talk about the different knowledge areas and units. But we've separated them into 15 discrete knowledge areas. And when I say discrete, that doesn't mean they're non integrated and crossover. In all the sessions we've had so far, people say, why is this knowledge unit under this knowledge area? It should be over somewhere else or should be called out as its own knowledge area. And we've tried to balance that. If somebody is looking for a specific knowledge or topic, um, we're going to make sure, which is not there, but our final report will be heavily indexed with cross-linking so that if somebody's trying to get to one particular element and it's not where they thought it should be, we're hoping it'll be fairly easy to find. But we're breaking down each of those 15 knowledge areas with a description and the scope of how that's applied in data science, a list of competencies, which is a broader description of the combination of knowledge and skills dispositions that are used, and then several knowledge units, subtopics, if you will, of the knowledge area. Each one of those knowledge units will have a list of what we call core or required topics that all data science programs, regardless of what kind of unit or focus or faculty skill sets that are there, this is what everybody should be able to expect will be included in all data science programs. Then we add additional topics that should be included as a specialization, a concentration, an emphasis, whatever it's called at your institution, in which a data science expert should be expected to have most or a majority of them, but may not have all of them, meaning they're not all required, but are in many programs. And my program that I was in is more, it's a stats and computing focus, but that we might have a lot more computing than a math or stats department would offer, and vice versa. We're also adding then electives, which are additional depth that might be because of a faculty specialty that they can add or a employer base that calls for additional skills and knowledge that might not be expected everywhere. Then we'll also list the skills and dispositions for that specific knowledge unit. We are working on that right now. What we're presenting in just a little bit is the knowledge units themselves. When Michael and the rest join us, they'll be jumping into the middle of, we're currently working on the skills portion of this document. Each of the competencies, it's good feedback we're getting where people are putting into our shared public document. This recommended knowledge unit topic really must be required in all of them. And so we're trying to balance the feedback from, who thinks they should be required and others that are saying, no, not every unit can handle that. But we're working at putting them down into this area. In our previous work, we called them tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. And that was tier 1 meant everybody must have type recommendation. All right, June, if you want to go through our 15 knowledge areas.
Thank you, Paul. The task force identified a total of 15 knowledge areas. They are listed alphabetical order here. And as statisticians, you can immediately see data acquisition, data storytelling, exploratory data analysis, machine learning, statistical fundamentals, statistical modeling. And also listed here, of course, we appreciate our inputs from our colleagues from computer science, and that include computing algorithms, computing fundamentals, and so on. And also included are professional areas such as professionalism and ethics and project management. So for each of the knowledge area, we will have a statement of competency, and within each knowledge unit, we will have further decompose it into knowledge area, knowledge units. Next slide, please. Now let's take a look at one example knowledge area, artificial intelligence. We will go through the structure of the documentation. So hopefully it will help you navigate through the whole documentation easily. Artificial intelligence as a knowledge area. Here we have two paragraphs in description. It describes the scope of this knowledge area, and it outlines the connection of this knowledge area with the data science education. The competency statements is listed next, and we say the data science graduate can apply and evaluate artificial intelligence methods, including machine learning and generative models, to study domain-specific problems while addressing ethical, societal, and trustworthiness considerations. This AI knowledge area is decomposed into 5 knowledge units. They are deep learning, generative AI, search, natural language processing, and logic-based approaches. On the next slides, we see an example of knowledge unit, deep learning. For each knowledge unit, the framework organizes the content into 3 levels. Like Paul just mentioned, we have the core level or required level, and then the recommended level or specialization concentration level, and finally elective. At the core level, these are materials that every data science graduate should know. And here it includes basics of definition of deep learning, origins and operations of neural network, back propagation, and gradient descent algorithms, and trustworthy AI. At the recommendation level and the elective level, as Paul mentioned, this of course depends on the program's resources, and they can be offered when in the recommended level. Well, we expect most of these contents to be covered, and elective level, those are offered at a deeper level. Next slide is on skills, which is the part of the document that is being actively developed. To describe the skills in a systematic way, we use the so-called Bloom taxonomy. The Bloom taxonomy is a widely used framework in education for organizing learning objectives. The idea is that learning happens at different cognitive levels. At the lower level, students focus on remembering and understanding concepts. As they progress, they apply those ideas, analyze situations, evaluate alternatives, and eventually create new solutions. You can think of it as moving from knowing something to using it, critiquing it, and finally to building something new with it. We use this structure to describe the kinds of skills data science students should develop as they move from learning concepts to applying them into real-world problems. This slide shows an example of how the Bloom framework translates into specific skills for this knowledge unit, deep learning. And please pay attention to the verb we use. So there are 6 levels, and the verb we use, remembering level, we used recall, and understanding, we used explain, and applying, we used train and validate, analyzing, we used diagnose, and evaluating, we used judge, and finally creating, we used design. These verbs are taken from Bloom's list. And disposition is being developed, will be developed.
All right, so we'll be leading a discussion at this point. We have about 40 minutes left together, and we will not get to all of it. So we do have in the chat, as well as on the next slide, a link to our public document. And we have a URL for a survey where you can type in your answers, or right now you can put comments in it in the document, and we will try and address them. A few things that have come up in our discussions, just for some feedback. Our upfront matter is not complete. We will be adding a data life cycle chapter to the beginning to wrap it all together. That's been unanimously supportive and asked for. We'll also be including a section where we are defining, for the purpose of this document only, data science as an independent field, not as coming out of any one department as if it was its own department, and how it relates to data analytics. We have not, as a group, agreed to that yet because we haven't talked about it, not because we haven't agreed to it. So we'll be adding that. And the final thing is with the structure. A lot of feedback we've gotten is, given our different backgrounds, topics may appear under different headings than you would expect. So one of the things we feel is very important and is we will be adding an index to the back. So we don't want people to get worried that the subject or the topic they're looking for, we want to make it easy for people to find it. And we're never going to get it where everyone thinks it should be, because that's impossible. So we're doing our best effort with that. So if those are some things I hope can, when you're first looking at it and getting overwhelmed, please know we will be addressing those. We're in the early steps. All right. So I think, could we go back to the previous slide? Because those are the questions that I was going to ask. Oh, great. Thank you. So one is, and I know this is a big group, there's 40 of you. If there's something you would like to bring up now, based on the feedback on this process or questions about this process you might have, if we have the 4 questions. So I'm going to go in order, if that's all right. Is that all right, Paul?
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So does anyone have any feedback on this process or questions about how it's done, how people are selected for the task force, anything? We're here to answer. Okay.
Maureen,
yes.
can I just ask, maybe as we're going, well, I see Mark Workman has his hand up, but as we're going along, if people have a question that occurs to them, should they put it in the chat and then we can circle back?
We can put it in the chat or raise your hand, as Mark has done, would be great.
Absolutely.
Putting in the chat would help us to kind of group them if there's several questions that are similar, et cetera. So yeah, the put in the chat would really help. It helps us in our follow-up too, for ourselves, if you would put it in chat so we have a good record. Yeah, Mark?
Yeah, thanks for all this. This has been really helpful, and it seems to me like a really a very well thought out process. What I really wanted to just know was what sort of timeline are you working on, and what are the deliverables, and to whom?
I'm going to answer that, and I'm going to let Paul jump in. Oh, I really would prefer Paul would answer, but I hate to ask him, but he is our management king. So would you mind, Paul?
Mark, I'll tell you what the goal was. what it current is and what it might end up being. Is that a good way? Which is showing not good management, I guess. I honestly thought that we would have had our final document published by this time. I underestimated the level of discussion that we're having, which is very good. So I'm not saying it as a negative or a process that was a speed bump. When we did I tried to create a timeline based on our efforts for the computing competencies. And wow, I thought we had a multidisciplinary, meaning computing disciplinary, task force, and we were much more homogeneous and similar in our discussions in that group. And so when you get someone from a business analytics group, from a math, a stats, a computing, um, we're having good discussions, and that slowed us, not slowed us down, but that took a little longer than we anticipated. We have finished our first draft, or what we thought was final, which we know is not final, of the knowledge units. And that's what's out there now that we're asking for the feedback so that we can correct, add to, and get better on the knowledge units. The skills and dispositions, the timeline is we hope to have that done by the end of the winter term. And so we are scheduled we meet every Friday afternoon between now and May. And I do think we're on a good timeline to finish that by May. And so if we have the knowledge, skills, and dispositions completed by May this summer, even though I'm sure there'll be a lot of people not being able to meet every week because of vacations and different schedules. But we hope to then work on finalizing those or finishing the feedback we get on those and start on the narratives. For example, as Maureen mentioned, we'll have a chapter on the life cycle. We're going to have chapters on how this is applied and different chapters. That's what we'll be doing over this summer, which then by fall, we hope to have a draft, a straw man, et cetera, out there so that we can get feedback on the whole document. So we're saying to hope to have it done by the end of 2026. We recognize that when we think we're done, the group of us are not all wise that's out there. And so I'm sure it won't be put in marble and concrete at the end of 2026. But our goal is to finish our work by the end of this year. So thanks for asking. So, Jennifer?
Yeah, mine is more of just a comment, not a question. But first, thank you for doing this. I am out in the business world, not in academia. And when I first looked through your guidance, really appreciate the breadth that you're taking, because I have absolutely experienced with new people entering the workforce with data science degrees, massive range of what they can or can't do. And most of them absolutely need some familiarity with a lot of what you have on there, because they don't have it. Leadership gets what they think is data science, and it's a massive range. Also wanted to say thank you for including project management in there, because I think that's another piece that gets lost. People are working in heaven knows what, tasking system and get just these little tasks, and it never comes together in a cohesive solution that actually does much value for a business. So that was it. Thank you. And if it takes longer than 2026, I would prefer the comprehensiveness and the thoughtfulness you guys are putting into this to speed.
Thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate industry input. So that is one of the things we will be encouraging when the draft goes out. Yeah. We do have a question in the chat from David Corliss. He wants to know about the diversity, the representatives on the task force with respect to research, geographic region, academia, industry, and government. Right now, I'll answer the easy ones first. The diversity, each professional organization is choosing the people that will be on the task force. So in the ACM, I can speak, we look for diversity in types of schools. Paul and I are not from R1s. I think I was at an R3. And we also have liberal arts, representation from liberal arts schools, community colleges, and research institutions. For the ACM, we are looking, and we have one international representative. It's been very hard to get more international representation, although we've tried, and we will be presenting internationally to the best of our ability. The other thing we are doing, because we're doing the task force now, We have asked because when this started, Paul and I weren't retired. And so for the people that we're adding in, we are looking for people who are using this in their research as well as teaching it. But because this is a curriculum guideline, you must be teaching the subject and the ACM. Every group has their own choices with that. Geographic region, we are from all across the country of the US. Um, Everyone is from academia right now. We do not have industry or government representatives. When we did the first document, we did have some industry representatives on board. We will be sending it out through our organizations for review by our industry representatives. So we will be getting that feedback. Again, what we're looking for from industry and government is this what you're expecting from your graduates? We've, at least on the first one, having people working in industry and government who don't do curriculum development, it's at a level most of them, quite frankly, weren't that interested in, but they did want to give us feedback. So we take that to heart. Did that answer your question enough, David?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. And thank you for all that you're doing. Wonderful stuff here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, on to the next. Just at the high level, clearly we would love for you to look at this in detail and give us detailed feedback. For example, recently we were doing the task for the fundamental mathematics, and someone said, yeah, Virgin Islands is fine. We want internet. We want everybody. And someone said, we had a long discussion when we did mathematical fundamentals that we didn't need integral calculus. Well, the people that did that were two computer science people. And when we got the mathematicians and statisticians in, they're like, no, they have to know how to do integrals. So those kind of feedback, because sometimes the people that worked on the section, when we're reviewing the task, if something's left out, we really want to know. So just at this, so we would love for you to do it in detail, but just from what we've presented now, does anyone have any feedback that you would like for us to hear at right now? We would love to hear it. All right. Okay, and now we've also kind of gone over the structure. One of the things we didn't mention that we'll also be adding is we do put exemplar and course examples. Our knowledge areas do not map to courses. So that would be, and we feel that's really important because it isn't about how it's at the contents covered. So, but we do put at the end some example courses that are implementing some of ours. And we will do that from across the spectrum from all the different organizations with their types of courses to give people examples. So that's also missing. But given that, is this structure useful? If not, do you have any ideas how it could be improved?
Yep. Maureen, we had a question again from David about required versus elective courses.
Yes.
I can tell you the approach that we're taking on that, and that is, first question we ask, is it reasonable that this topic area be taught by all data science programs, regardless of what unit or focus the program has? If it's a topic that is taught in most statistics focused, but not in others, then we say that's not reasonable to put that into a required area. And so the first thing we're looking at is this reasonable to be taught and offered in data science programs regardless of home? The second question we ask you then is it necessary, regardless whether it's could be taught by any program? Is this a topic that we think all data science graduates need to have? That's a trickier part, right? We get that. And so that's more the feedback that we welcome, because I'll tell you, the tendency is to put everything into required. We all think this is good stuff. And so the required grows and grows. And so the challenge is to keep that down to a manageable list. When this is finished, if you were to take all the required topics and add them up, I would suspect that someone would say, there's more in there than we could possibly put into our 55 hours, whatever you have in our program. That can't be done. Well, we recognize, though, that a topic is not a course. right? And a knowledge unit is not even a course. In some places, a knowledge area might even take up what would be a course. So we're not getting into the level of what needs to be taught. What we're saying is, regardless of the credit hours a program has and where it's housed, these topics need to be taught. And we're not saying needs to have at least 15 hours of discussion. We're not getting to that granular level simply because of the variety of programs. So the difference in required, core versus recommended is more that reasonableness and ability across programs. Hopefully that answered it.
And comment is why my hand up. Yes, that does. Just an FYI, one very opinionated person's opinion, I will be an advocate for seeing ethics as a required course at the master's degree level, just like we do in law and medicine and accounting, and go down the list. You can't get the master's JD, something like that, without having a required ethics course. So I'll be an advocate for that. But you've already laid out all the content here. It's really, really well done. Thank you.
Well, yeah, we thank you. You mentioned ethics, for example. Um, we even discussed and debated whether there should be a separate unit on a knowledge area on ethics. So we do have a knowledge area on professionalism and ethics, which takes in more than just the ethics, takes in legal issues and workforce issues, et cetera. But that's not all forced into that. So, for example, when we go into the security area outside of that in its own knowledge unit, there will be ethical components in there. So it's everything is not forced into a box and only in that box. I think is the way I would say that. And for those of you not reading the chat, Owen asked a question about could we put deep learning separate from as its own KA? And Maureen replied, we did discuss that, and there were probably as many people that wanted them lumped together because of the similarities, and others wanted them separate. And so it was more just of a structural decision. AI, when it started, was huge. And so we had to separate that out simply for logistics and readability. And so there's a number of things that we take into consideration when we group them into a knowledge area. Yeah, Dave?
Thanks, Paul. I think you may have just answered this question, but I just wanted to double check. And I should also tell you the reason I'm asking is because a subset of the people who are currently here are from the GAZE group within ASA that's working on introductory statistics in particular. It sounds like you all are sort of identifying these knowledge areas across the entire program in DS, not for, let's say, folks who need to be exposed to DS? Are you going to attempt to identify a subset of your KAs that should be seen by somebody that's just getting an intro?
We have not discussed that. In previous work that I've done, for example, I chaired the information systems curriculum, and that's a discipline that has a lot of minors, and therefore we separated out that document into majors or programs and other subgroups like minors and emphases, et cetera. We did that to a small extent in the computing competencies. We have not even discussed doing that here. Not that we wouldn't. We just had our plates are full doing the full bachelor's program. I think it would be good to do. So I won't say that we won't, but we just haven't discussed it.
We do have a representative from NC State who is building those types of programs, who is part of this. So she has had a lot of say in the curriculum. What we did in the first document too was include some courses that were intros to data science. So that might be helpful. So yeah, just to add on to what Paul said. Yeah.
Thank you.
I do think we got data storytelling from Michael Posner's document, by the way, just to give credit where credit is due. So thank you, Michael. Since everyone's loving it, you should get the credit. Any other questions?
So I'll make a comment. David also responded to the storytelling. We've had a lot of feedback about not having a knowledge area called visualization. Something with the word visualization in, and we get it. The problem with visualization is that there seemed to be a clear distinction between the visualization um, from an analytics or exploratory data analysis phase and in the reporting and storytelling. And so we split the visualization components into those two areas, the storytelling and the exploratory analysis. Not everybody likes that. We welcome your feedback, and we'll try to balance that. I know folks want the word visualization to be a lot more prominent, but again, hopefully the indexing and keyword will help do that.
All right, we have a few things that are being asked for, so the chat's going crazy. One is Owen has asked to display the KAKU page. Um, and if you could do that for him. And then we do have folks, and also I did not credit April Kirby, and I forget her last name, April Kirby Helm, who also it was the master team that came up with that name. So I apologize for only giving one person credit. We do have visualization in the document, and our storytelling involves a lot more than visualization. So thank you, Jennifer. And with respect to the high school, what to do in high school, I think our three fundamentals, we have three areas of computing fundamentals, mathematical fundamentals, and statistical fundamentals. We will not expect students to come in with those, but if you were developing some kind of program, that could be helpful. And then also perhaps our intro to data science, if there's an exemplar course, would also be useful at the high school level. That would be my 5 cents on that. I don't know if you can add to that, Paul. There was a question if I
Yeah,
teach high school. Yep.
one comment on that, and then also back to Owen's request. There is an effort called Data Science for All, which I assume many of you are aware of, or some of you may even be involved with. I'm not saying we're relegating that will be the answer for data science in high schools, but we're kind of deferring at this time because we don't need to duplicate parallel efforts. This document is not only doesn't do high schools and graduate programs, we are trying to be inclusive of two-year and community colleges. We have a member on the task force from a community college, and so we're trying to address that, but the document will be restricted to bachelor's level programs. So, Owen, you
Paul,
wanted a page. Did I get the right one, or did you want?
And Paul, before we go on, though, I did definitely want to jump in and say that the pre-K-12 GAZE report also does address some of the fundamentals necessary. It is, guidelines for assessment and instruction and statistics education, but it definitely this edition has a data science flavor. And then I need to give a shout out to my colleagues on the college gaze report revision team, because they have been very thoughtful to make sure that the recommendations offered in college gaze work for our recommendations for both intro statistics and intro data science. So I'll find the links and put them in chat, but I would definitely encourage folks who are considering an intro course at the high school level or at the college level to make sure that they are following the college gaze discussion.
Yep, thank you. Owen, I don't know which screen it was you wanted. I can go back and follow up on what you wanted to see. We can discuss.
And no, I just wanted to check because at that time I missed something. I wanted to see what maybe is missing, but I can already see that maybe it's not including, it's not exhausting some of them. I don't know if there is chance if we can provide feedback after the call. Yeah, because already I'm seeing
Yes, yes.
others we have left them out.
So absolutely. The link that Donna put in the chat and where we have this QR code and URL. I don't know. Some people don't like tiny URLs because they're a redirect, but this public document is we've already made changes, but this is a frozen document when we completed the work with the first draft that you can go out, put comments right in that document. You can't edit the document, but you can put comments in there. And then also we have a survey, a feedback area that I think Maureen's going to be talking about in just a second. No, this today's not your only shot. We want plenty of feedback.
Yeah, why don't we go to the next slide because we've done these questions.
Okay.
So, Owen, if you can see the one QR is for public and the other is a feedback form. Some people are leaving their comments in the document. I am a linear person, so I will not be going through those. I will be going through the form. So, but someone else will go through the documents. Whatever is easiest for you, we've decided that both work for different brain types. So, yeah.
Oops, I should have left those up. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, if we could leave those up. So we did get a question if we could share the slides with everybody. Is there a way we could upload them right now to here, or would that be possible to everyone who's here?
I don't have them on a shared drive. I could see here.
If you want, if it'll be fine if you I plan on making the recording available on our YouTube channel, and I'll and we'll also link to it from our
Oh, that-
website, so I can make sure that I let everyone who's in attendance know that they are available.
Yep. No, if I had thought ahead of time, I could have put them in our shared public drive that you could have access to, but trying to run the slideshow and put them out there in time to put it in a chat, I may not have time, but yeah, we'll make them available somehow.
All right. We still have about 10 minutes left. Other questions, comments? Anything for the statisticians on our team?
Just applause. This is great.
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Patty.
So it's kind of a follow-up to what Dave asked. And I agree with you completely that you don't want to say you need a course on this, you need a course on that. But it would be helpful to have maybe levels. What should a student know in the 100 level courses? What should they know? What part of this should be in the 200 level courses? What part should be in the upper level? I don't know if that's possible. I know you've done a bit of this, but that would be enormously helpful, I think, to all the people trying to create these programs. Thank you. And thank you for all your work. It's fantastic.
Patty, that's a great request and wish. I agree it would be nice. That's getting back into the model curricula where you do the freshman, sophomore, junior, and it's just the variety, the different types of programs make that almost impossible. I'm not saying it's not possible. The closest we're probably going to get to helping with that is when we're completed, we will have recommended Bloom skill levels. And so if something's at the knowledge or analysis phase, that's not something that you're probably going to teach at the upper levels or vice versa. You're not going to ask somebody to apply an advanced statistical skill at a freshman level. So you could use the recommended level for each of the skills and the knowledge units. That's about as close as I think we'll get. I don't want to speak for the whole group, but that's where our thinking is right now.
Yeah, we had a lot. Yeah, I think. Thank you, Paul. We also asked if someone could, there were some questions if Michael could share, and if Michael and April could share their work, and the link is in the chat.
Yep.
The next question we had was, what are your thoughts on integrating AI literacy and teaching stats and DS? And I open that to our group. And this is from Abir. So I'll start because I have opinions about everything. So one of the things in the CS, we've done these curriculum guidelines for a long time. And the way that we would show that would be in our exemplar courses. Curriculum development within an institution can really vary due to personalities, politics, whatever. So these would be our personal thoughts. I would think you would want to do it and that doesn't mean you have to do it. So I think you're kind of set with the team that you have and making it work, would be my short, truthful answer to that. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in.
Maybe I'll
Thank
try
you.
to address it as well. So should AI literacy be part of any program that touches on statistics and data science? I think something related to AI needs to be, and that's reflected in our knowledge areas and our document as well. Now, whether that's at the literacy level or a higher level is going to depend on what else that program is trying to accomplish. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the curricular guidelines should require that call out AI literacy specifically, but we are definitely calling out AI. I will admit that it is a difficult thing to develop curriculum guidelines around right now. I find it difficult to develop my next session about, like in a course that I'm currently teaching, because of how fast things are changing in this landscape. But definitely it's integrated into the document. It's called out in the document. Whether it's going to be at the literacy level or a higher level for any given program is going to depend on the curriculum goals of that program.
Thanks for adding that, Mina. We have several hands raised. I'll just answer real quickly. Eduardo want to know a timeline of when to get feedback. ASAP. We're not putting a hard deadline because as we're talking with you all here from ASA, the town hall today, we're planning quite a few additional conference presentations and other formats to try to get feedback. And so it's kind of a rolling or an ongoing series of feedback. So we're not putting a hard deadline, but the sooner that we get it, the easier will be to give it discussion and bring back in. Okay, Mark?
Yeah, thank you. One thought that actually came to my mind was in constructing the division within each of these knowledge units, you have the required knowledge areas seem pretty well developed, and it certainly has the flavor, the right flavor of being sort of the core. What I was actually wondering about is whether your view is on the electives, trying to be comprehensive about it, or maybe instead taking the attitude of just having like suggested recommended electives. I'm mostly bringing this up because when I saw the list for AI, there were one or two possible electives that sort of came to my mind that weren't included. And I can imagine in making these as recommendations, others might have other ideas. So like trying to be too comprehensive about the electives might run into a little bit of trouble.
No, we'd be happy to add those.
No,
I
I'm
think
not, no, exactly. What I'm trying to say is don't even attempt to try to come up with a comprehensive list because
we're doing our best, but we feel like the core and specializations are the most important. You're absolutely right.
yeah, no, so I agree with that, but I guess
Yeah.
what I'm really getting at is whether to couch those list of electives as not intended to be the full the full set. And so like somehow signal
Good
that a
comment.
little bit more
Yep.
carefully.
Good comment. Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the AI subject as well. I feel like it is so impacting all of society and all of disciplines. And so I would just caution against trying not to take it ownership of the AI. Even for our large company, they are whipping everybody to use AI in your daily jobs. And it is across everything. It is not just this, unless you're the one programming it. And I just think that's going to be a challenging topic and to be thoughtful about that.
Understood.
As I'm sure you know.
Understood. All right. Moni?
Hello. My comment is also about AI, and I know that at my institution we have a couple of flavors of intro to AI courses that are meant for people who are not going to take anything further. So sort of like a course that introduces people on how to use AI and use it responsibly. and also a little bit of data science thrown in there as well. That's something that our university has been pushing for us to do. And so we've recently tried to develop those courses to try to hit students who may not want. I mean, like Jennifer mentioned, it's everywhere and people should know how to use it and use it responsibly. But we also know that not everyone is going to go into a field where they're going to use it maybe daily or it might, so anyway, that's part of what we're trying to do at my institution, which is Southern Methodist University in Dallas, for anyone who's interested.
Okay.
There was one more comment, Paul.
Where did I miss it?
Was following up on what Renee said. About how which in high school should be in high school. I don't think that's applies to our group, but just a general topic and discussion.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right. Sorry.
All right. Anything else? Appreciate the comment, Pete. All right.
Well, Paul, I'd be remiss if I didn't express the ASA's appreciation for the hard work of the task force. And obviously, I want to especially give a shout out to Mina, June, Jan previously, because I know she contributed a lot. And a big thank you for Michael for jumping in.
Yeah, your group has been amazingly helpful to us, and it's been a fabulous working relationship. I think Paul and I have been very impressed with all of you, so thank you.
Yep. And Donna, right back at you. As you know, there's quite a number of different groups that have signed MOUs and are helping, and some that are helping that aren't officially in the group with an MOU. But ASA leads the group, and it's not like you're my favorite today. I don't go and say this at each of the ones. ASA as an organization, you and Ron and everybody, and I see Dave Hunter, on a different line. Dave has been very helpful, and I just applaud your organization and your involvement. So thank you very much.
Thanks. And thanks to everyone for taking time. And don't forget, you can add feedback at any time.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Right.
We love it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.